since I can talk to you here. But why are we the only ones here?
Do you see the full screen presentation or the
I see Jersey City and the Highlands Common Interest, Julia Summers, Elliott Ruger, New Jersey Highlands Coalition, and the two maps.
Great.
Looks really nice.
Thank you. You want to try to call Ashwani?
I will do that right now. Hi, Ashwani. Are we in the wrong place? Okay. No, it's just Elliot and me. So hopefully he will be joining. He sounded like he was about to join.
Okay. I haven't gotten out of my chair since 10 o'clock this morning.
Well, today has been a long day of meetings.
How'd it go with the Phillipsburg meeting last night?
No, Phillipsburg isn't. Oh, well, that was a local meeting. That actually went quite well. They're pretty much prepared for the next meeting. I mean, I wouldn't have stayed if Bill Wolf was there. Mike,
Right.
what's
Mike
his face? Mike King was there, but he didn't stay for very long. I don't know why. So it was a useful meeting. Guy Citrone was there for the whole time. And so was Dave Morissette.
Helbing?
No Helbing.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, Deborah.
Hello, dear people. I apologize.
Hi, Ashwani.
I just got in the door, so I'm sorry.
Well, we were worried that we were in the wrong place or on the wrong day or something.
Oh, you're in the right place at the right time, and that was about me. So welcome and thank you for joining us. This is going to be something that I've been, wanting to do for a long time. And Ash's good suggestion here gave us the excuse to do this at our monthly Community Green Committee meeting. We try to sort of talk about not only, hyper-local Jersey City, but what's going on, in the region, at the state level. This is important to all three dimensions. So
Deborah, we certainly are prepared. We came expecting to talk about, the Highlands and and why the Highlands are important for Jersey City and the history, and because there's lots of that. And we can talk, if you want, about larger statewide issues. But there's lots to talk about, just focusing on the Highlands and the Jersey
Jersey
City
City.
connection.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you want to build that into your conversation, the hour is yours, right? We have no other guests. The agenda is, you know, just basically opening up. I make a few announcements and then I turn it over to you. You know, this is a friendly group. We, you know, have had anywhere between 6 and 25 people on the call. What we do is record this and we make it available not only on our Eventbrite registration page, which is a running list of who we've hosted over time, but we also put this onto our YouTube playlist.
Mhm.
And we promote it every month in our newsletter. So you will live in perpetuity.
I don't know how good that is.
Yeah, and I think it's important for you know, for folks to think beyond Jersey City. I think it's important first of all, to make the connection why you are so important to Jersey City. But you know, we're vested in some bigger conversations, right? The state,
Mhm.
the region. So whatever you want to put to that level of conversation is entirely up to you. You're free to, you know,
Mhm.
whatever you want.
Thank you.
And in that hour, we should build in some Q&A time?
Yeah. So if you want to set it up so that people can ask questions along the way, or you want to intermittently after, you know, you speak a bit, or if you want to just chat away for 30 minutes or 45 minutes and have 15 minutes of Q&A, however you want to set it up to you.
Cool.
You know, different people who have come to be a guest in the program do it differently. So it's entirely up to you.
So I will tell you, my agenda and suggesting Julia and Elliot, there's a need to make the population of the state more aware of the relevance of NJ Island Coalition. And then, well, people don't make that association between the name and the issues they deal with. So it seems to me that it might be worthwhile to spend at least 5-10 minutes talking about those aspects of NJCU's work and HC work that might actually have relevance to Jersey City residents. And then you could move to broader issues and what you folks are trying to do and so on.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand if you were queuing me up in a particular way, SJC, or what you were suggesting that they do differently.
Well, my thought was we should start with relevance of Highland Coalition for Jersey City residents,
Yes,
and then from there move to larger regional issues.
So Ashwani, Elliot it will be starting this for us. I mean, after everybody's introduced, but he has a couple of maps that will do exactly what you're talking about.
Mhm.
And we will go from there. And we will address all the issues that you raised. So
Good.
So we'll talk about particular common interests between Jersey City and the Highlands that have been around for a very long time. And then we'll talk more generally about the value of the Highlands to the entire state.
that's great. That makes sense. That's fine.
Great.
Yes. So, again, what kind of rhythm are you most comfortable with? Would you like?
Jazz.
Me too. So,
aha.
yes. Would you like people to wait until you've chatted for a while to ask questions?
And you know, I guess unless they have a burning question or clarification that they need, they should hold off on their general questions until I've completed the presentation.
Okay, good. So that's how I'll introduce it. And to the extent that I am going to introduce you both, I don't know more about your background other than Julia, you're the executive director. And I don't know what your role is as much as what we've indicated on the event announcement was that Brielle Olson, Director of Strategy and Operations, was going to join us. What is your role in the organization, Elliot?
I'm the Policy and Communications Director.
Okay, so what I am going to do is quickly swap out Brielle's information with yours. So Director of,
Okay.
one more time.
Policy and communications.
I sent that to you in a blurb on Slack, Deborah.
So I only have what you had sent me regarding Julia and Brielle. Apologies for having missed any updates, Ash.
Yep.
So Elliot, spell your last name because I'm in a different screen.
RUGA.
RUGA.
And Elliot with 2 L's and 2 T's.
Yeah, I got that part. Thank you. Okay. And I have a background document that I shared that had Brielle's bio. So you're going to need to speak to your background, Elliot.
If you go to our website under staff, you can just read my bio from there.
I'm going to let you. I'm going to let you both introduce yourselves more deeply after I indicate your titles, because I think you'd do a better job than I would. What I did publish on the event notification is the New Jersey Highlands Coalition website link and the indications of those 5: water supply, recreation, tourism, environmental stewardship, regional planning, and quality of life, importance to Jersey City residents. So there's a background document there. If there's something that you want me to publish in addition regarding your staff bio, I'll add that to all of this afterwards. Right now, it's a little too late to do that, but I will introduce you and then you can talk about your background, Elliot.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you. Okay. IOTT, and it's pronounced Ruga?
Ruga.
Yes, and Julia, it's pronounced Somers?
Summers, like the season.
Okay, very nice. Okay. Okie doke. We are in motion in just a few minutes. So
I
am
can
just
change
cleaning
my
this.
background.
I am going to go to the Highlands Coalition. What I'm going to do right now is, at your direction, Elliot, I'm looking under about who we are, under staff. Staff, grab your bio. Okay. So I'm going to post that to our Eventbrite right now. Okay. And actually, I'm going to put a link to the staff page and do it that way. Here we go. Okay, that'll work. Okay. Yes. Okay, now we got it. And Ash, have you turned off the recording?
I have not.
I'm sorry, yes?
No, no, I have not.
Okay,
It's recording. It's currently recording. It is recording.
so it's recording now.
Yeah, it was all along.
Okay,
Are active and that
so we're talking about a
we
call to
support in
action.
all sorts of different ways. So
And we're a true coalition of organizations.
Okay, so the call to action is on several levels.
yes. So for instance, my meeting before I left the office to come to where I am now to join this meeting was with one of our member organizations who have been working very hard and have raised money. And this meeting was with their attorneys and with their environmental expert, because they're going to be presenting testimony at the next land use board meeting in that community, in opposition to serious overdevelopment in a very sensitive location. They're finally going to get their turn. And I actually left feeling very positive.
Oh, great.
I think they're going to be successful. Now, sometimes these things take a long time. Elliot and I both work with our member groups. And the longest one that I've been involved in took 15 years. But the success that we had last summer was around a project that started in May of 2019. And the state of New Jersey closed on the purchase of nearly 600 acres of first order farmland soils in the middle of May of 2024. And in that time, a small group took on one of the largest warehouse developers in the Northeast. And they stopped them. And the state of New Jersey preserved that land.
So when the state purchased the land, that wasn't necessarily their intent to preserve it?
The state didn't preserve it until, this was 5 years in, and it still didn't have its planning board approvals. And that gave the state time to recognize its importance and negotiate with the owner and then close on it and purchase it. And that land will be preserved forever as farmland.
Okay, so
And it
it
was
intended to preserve it. It just took 5 years to get to something.
Well, when they initially took on the fight against Jandel, which is the name of the company from the Lehigh Valley that wanted to develop this as 6 million square feet of warehouse space, more than 10 miles from Route 80, more than 10 miles from 78 on a 2-lane county road right next to the Delaware River. They didn't know what they were trying to do except stop it.
Right.
But in the end, the state of New Jersey recognized that because these were prime farmland soils, and this was a very large acquisition for them, it would have been crazy not to preserve it. But if this group had not fought on true David and Goliath, the opportunity would not have been there for the state.
Got it. And this came to fruition this past summer.
Yep, middle of May.
Yeah. Yes, these things actually take years. It's ridiculous.
Well,
It's
the developer never, ever imagined that this opposition group would screw their plans. They expected to be approved within a year. And eventually they realized they were throwing good money trying to get approved a project that they may not get approved. So they gave up. And waiting in the wings was the state agricultural board willing to buy it. But that wasn't there at first either.
okay.
So the longest that I've been involved in was in Morris Township in Morris County. And from when the first inkling of it began to the day when it became preserved land, part of the Morris County Park System, that was 15 years.
Okay.
Sometimes,
Wow.
sometimes conservation takes a long time and a lot of very stubborn people.
And that's how Julie and I met, through that.
Right.
Oh, I
opposition.
see. Okay, so you guys are old friends.
We've known each other for a few.
Yeah. You've been rowing together.
So
Okay,
to speak.
very, very nice. Okay.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Ashwani is one of our trustees.
Yes, I understand. Is that, Ash, have you been a trustee for a while now, or is this
For a
new?
little bit of time. For a little bit of time.
A little bit of
I
time.
forget when. A couple of years.
At least.
Yeah.
It must be. We have 3-year terms, but you might have been renewed once. Our trustees can serve 2 3-year terms consecutively before they must go off the board for at least a year.
Okay,
But we have quite a large board, slightly over 20 people, and really a very impressive board. We're very fortunate.
well, I think it takes, to be honest, and I'm sure they each have a particular set of attributes, but it takes a small army to do what you're doing.
Which is why we have these grassroots group members, and we have all sorts of other members too. Pretty much every watershed association that's active in the Highlands is a member of ours. The Association of New Jersey Environmental Commissions, the New Jersey Conservation Foundation, the Land Conservancy of New Jersey, the Huntington Land Trust, I mean, on and on and on. Environmental groups, some environmental commissions are members of ours. So you are right, it takes a small army, because the Highlands is 88 towns. While it's not huge, it's a little bit smaller than the Pinelands, not much. But more than 70% of the state's residents depend on the Highlands for their water supply.
Yes,
So all of
read
which
that.
we'll be
And
talking.
we couldn't possibly be our staff of 7, full-time staff of 7,
6 plus a contractor.
could not be in 88 municipalities all at once. So it's very important for us to work with grassroots groups to help them become more effective in their municipalities, to understand municipal land use law, to advocate for good land use practices.
So how many
And in
people,
turn,
how many
when-
trustees do you have?
21.
20, that's a lot. That is a
But we have
lot.
a very active committee system.
That is,
So you need a lot of trustees if you have a lot of committees.
yeah. I kind of like that model a lot. Everyone on SJC's board is a working board member. You know, so that's useful. We have 10 board members.
Mhm.
So how many, what you were calling member organizations do you have?
Over 100.
Hmm. So Sustainable Jersey City should be a member?
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Very expensive. Costs you $20 a year.
I don't know if I could afford that. I had my eye on a set of boots.
What pair of boots can you get for $20?
I'm putting $20 away each week. No, that's good. We'll join.
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Thank
Now,
you.
if you want to be a voting member and attend our meetings, our policy committee meetings, which are monthly, that's $30 a year. But
I'm going to do that through Ashwani,
okay,
meaning he'll bring back what we need to know.
okay.
So
So
that's an opportunity.
what is Sustainable Jersey City and what relationship do they have with the administration?
Well,
Do you like the administration?
it's come, you know, it's come round, and we'll start in a couple minutes here, but we, you know, Ash probably filled you in. We've been around since
No, I haven't.
2011. So these kind folks, friends of yours, fellow Highlandsers, are unfamiliar with SJC? You just accepted this invitation blind.
Oh, well,
No.
we have a real soft spot for Jersey City, as you will learn,
Okay.
and because of its importance to the Highlands,
Okay.
and because of the Highlands' importance to Jersey City. But we go anywhere, especially if you use Highlands water, which you do.
Okay. Well, we started out as a community green team, you know, just, and we continue to do innovative demonstration projects here on the ground. You know, green infrastructure is where we started, and we still focus quite a bit on that, including urban forestry, restoring the tree canopy here. You know, we're looking at what we might want to do with the watershed, with getting more youth involved, both on the watershed front and green infrastructure. And we've evolved from being a thorn in the side of city government to being an ally and a thought leadership partner. So we got some news today, which we're very pleased about, Ashwini, to report. We had applied to the Arbor Day Foundation in the summer months to do a demonstration project where we would be working with an elementary school and a block association in an environmental justice neighborhood to plant 50 trees where there were, you know, maybe scattered just a few, as part of a Green Corridors program that we had introduced to the city a few years back as a potential strategy, sort of creating connectivity corridors between green spaces and between schools and green spaces with tree-lined streets. So we missed out on that grant by a sliver, and I got a call today from the Arbor Day Foundation saying that they kept our proposal at the top of the list and they're interested to fund the project. So that's the biggest grant we've received so far on our own, which is a $250,000 grant. It is extraordinarily, probably on par with New York City, expensive to plant a tree here.
And then to keep it alive.
Yeah, exactly. And on that note, just a little background on SJC. I think that's enough of a teaser for you guys. We'll get to know each other better over time, but what do you think about starting the meeting? Can we go for it? Let's see who we have here. We have one person,
Parisa.
Parisa.
Yeah.
Do you folks know Parisa? Parisa, do you know these folks?
No, I just attended the meeting out of curiosity. I usually get the monthly meetings in my email, and I just decided to attend the first meeting that I was available for. So I'm just near, I'm just curious.
Oh, that's great. What part of Jersey City do you live in?
I live in near Journal Square.
Okay, great. Noted. So did you hear about this through the Journal Square Community Association or through SJC's broadcast?
SJC's newsletter. I think so. I was in high school at the time when I subscribed to them. So I was just getting their newsletter now for like maybe 1 or 2 years now.
Okay, great. Well, my name, and you can see it on the screen, is, you know, Deb Italiano. I'm, you know, the president of the organization. Ashwani's on the call, who is the founding advisor for SJC. You know, we've been around since 2011, and we do this in association with the Journal Square Community Association. So if you've never been to one of their meetings, I would recommend that, because it's your neighborhood, right? So I hope you enjoy the talk tonight. It's my you know, privilege to introduce these folks from the Highlands Coalition. Julia Summers is the executive director, and Elliot Ruga is basically the director of policy and communications for the organization. I'm going to let them further introduce themselves as we start the meeting here. And I think you wanted Elliot to start. you have access to share your screen if you would like to do that, and maybe also introduce a little bit more about who you are.
Okay. Let me first share my screen. I guess, there you go. I've been with the coalition for 18 years now. And as the communications and policy director, I lead all of our policy initiatives and communications campaigns to try to affect policies on the municipal, county, regional, state, and federal level, as well as to engage the public so that they understand how important the resources of the Highlands are to the economy of New Jersey, as well as the high quality of life we have here, and how our future climate resiliency is tied to the Highlands as well. And before that, I had a career in radio and television operations, because I believe it's never too late to reinvent yourself, nor how many times in your life you can do that. And I bring a lot of those skills to the coalition. I do a lot of advocacy videos and such.
And what Elliot does not tell people, but I am very happy to share, is he also has 2 Emmys for helping to run 2 different Olympics for NBC, where he worked.
Oh, fabulous.
So Julia, why don't you tell a little bit about who you are, and then we'll get on with the show.
Sure, very quickly. You don't get a prize for guessing that I was not born in the US. However, I've lived here since 1979, and raised our family here. I started out, I spent 16 years I was the first executive director for the Great Swamp Watershed Association, which is a watershed association in Morris County that protects the watershed of the Great Swamp National Wildlife Refuge, and was persuaded to become the initial executive director for the New Jersey Highlands Coalition when it was kicked out of being a program of the New Jersey Conservation Foundation. So, and when I was still at Great Swamp, that's when Elliot and I met on an issue. The Great Swamp, of course, is part of the Great Swamp Watershed, is part of the New Jersey Highlands. So the skills that I learned at the Great Swamp Watershed Association is what brought me to the New Jersey Highlands Coalition, where I've been for 17 years. And so, Elliot, I turn it back to you.
Okay, so Jersey City and the Highlands has enjoyed a long relationship. Maybe it's not obvious to most, but it goes back a bit in time. See if I can advance my screen here. So what are the Highlands? It's a province of a geophysical province of New Jersey. I learned when I was in grammar school that the provinces are the inner and outer coastal plains, which are down south. And then it's the Piedmont, which is the very narrow part of New Jersey, followed by the Highlands, which are New Jersey's part of the Appalachian Range. And then in the northwest corner, that's the Valley and Ridge province, which is basically the valley, the Great Valley before the Kittatinny Ridge. So the Highlands, which are about 1,700 million years old, were once a very prominent mountain range, but 1,700 million years of erosion is a bitch, and what we have left are the eroded remnants of a once prominent range. And there's they are a series of mountains that are oriented for the northeast to the southwest. And there's a whole bunch of them. So they're not very particularly tall, but they're very steep. And that made transportation, very east-west transportation, very difficult. And because of that, the Highlands were the portion of New Jersey which were the last to develop.
I can
Now,
share that, I can share before Elliot goes on, that when I took the position as director, I grew up in Scotland. And when I took the position as executive director of the Highlands Coalition, my father said to me, "What is the elevation of those mountains?" I said, "Dad, it really doesn't matter. They are our mountains." But as it happens, they were once upon very much part of the same mountains before we had an Atlantic Ocean, when they were all part of, what was that? No, I can't remember what it was called when we were all linked.
Laurentia?
Yeah. Anyway, we were the Scottish Highlands and the Appalachians were part of the same mountain range.
So what the Highlands did have was mines, mostly iron mines. And between the 1720s and the mid 1960s, we had about 512 named mines in the Highlands. And in fact, between the Revolutionary War and the Civil War, the Highlands were the iron capital to this growing nation. And all of these mines had associated with them various furnaces and forges, because that was what was required to extract the mineral from the ore, and then also to make the...
This is an extraordinary map.
Thank you. This is what was used and also used to make the mercantile iron, the pig iron and the bar iron, into iron implements. And at first, all of these furnaces and forges were fueled by charcoal, which was a very inefficient fuel. Each furnace or forge, which would really, once they lit that fire, it would operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week until it failed. And as such, they would consume between 2 and 3 square miles of timber as charcoal every year. So by the mid 1800s, there was barely a tree left in the Highlands. And because of the lack of fuel, many of these iron operations were failing for want of fuel until they converted to anthracite coal, which was, although it was readily available in eastern Pennsylvania, because of the rugged landscape of the Highlands, it was very difficult to get the fuel to the mines. It was in fact cheaper to import coal from England across the Atlantic than it was from Pennsylvania, until
Wowsy.
a very enterprising individual from Morristown in about 1810 was fishing at his favorite fishing hole, known then as the Great Pond, which is also known as Lake Apacong, thought, well, what if I dug a ditch from the Delaware River to the Hudson River and used the water from this lake, which was the high point between those two rivers, I'd have a canal. And that was such a good idea that it was in 1821 that the canal was completed and operating. And what it did for the first time, and here's a canal, the canal, and if you can see I don't know if you can see my cursor, but 2/3 of the canal is in the Highlands. And it really opened up the Highlands to the first time to commerce. And it provided agricultural products and iron products and other wares of the Highlands to the New Jersey's eastern growing cities, such as Newark and Jersey City, and helping them to grow into population centers, transportation hubs, and manufacturing giants, which they became. But what they also did, because of their population and their use of water from the Passaic and Hackensack rivers as their water supply, but also where they dumped all their chemical waste and human waste. They polluted these rivers to such an extent that there were epidemic levels of cholera and dysentery that they couldn't drink their water anymore. They were in the risk of failing until they searched throughout New Jersey for the best place to build reservoirs. And because of the high ground and the pristine forests, they built their water supplies in the Highlands. Newark bought 35,000 acres eventually of the Highlands to build their 5 water supply reservoirs. And Jersey City bought land in Newark and, in Boonton and Parsippany for their main reservoir. Here it is. In Boonton, it's called the Jersey City Reservoir. In Jersey City, it's called the Boonton Reservoir. And the backup reservoir is in Split Rock.
There's a wonderful book called The Blue Death, written about how it was discovered that that cholera was waterborne, and this was one of the things that was plaguing the cities of Newark and Paterson and Jersey City and so on. And because we didn't know that we had to keep our waste separate from our water supply. And that was what, once that was discovered, that was what caused the mayors of Newark and Jersey City to go up into the hinterlands and purchase this land and create these systems that transformed the cities themselves, because suddenly their death rates just plummeted.
So was the cholera epidemic having to do with the water supply?
Cholera, typhoid, all those sort of things, but cholera particularly was, they didn't know how cholera was, how people, became infected with cholera. And there were all sorts of speculation, but The Blue Death is really worth checking out. It's a very good book.
So can you put that into the chat?
Sure.
That'd be great. Any notes that you're free to put into the chat, including your contact information, and you will share if you would like. We'd like to post your presentation if you would like us to do that.
So after World War II, when New Jersey's population was growing at a tremendous rate and the need for housing, it started getting a little crowded in the Highlands. And it was in 1992 that the US Forest Service studied the New York and New Jersey Highlands region. And what they found were that the resources of the Highlands were being lost to sprawl type development at such an incredible rate that it placed the extraordinary and essential resources of the Highlands at risk. And in 2002, they updated that study and recommended that some sort of planning mechanism be put in place to try to protect this region and to enact land use policies to protect the resources of the Highlands. And that led to the formation of the Highlands Task Force in New Jersey, which after a year of studying recommended to the legislature and the governor that they pass a Highlands Act. And in June in 2004, that finally occurred. It was quite controversial. It was quite a state's intervention over home rule that is still controversial today, but it was enacted while Governor McGreevey was the governor. And today, that was in 2004, 15, how many years later, we still have that in place despite numerous attempts to overturn the act. We had a governor, Governor Christie, who tried to weaken the act and undermine the council. We'll talk about that a little bit further. Because what people recognize is how much of New Jersey gets its water from the Highlands. And this is a map, a color-coded map, which shows places in New Jersey that get up to 100% of their water from the Highlands, as little as 5%, and it goes down as far as Burlington County. And, you know, the Pinelands, which is hugely important as a water resource, but for other reasons, because by legislation, the Pinelands cannot export water more than 17 miles outside of the Highlands, outside of the Pinelands, whereas we don't have that limitation. And therefore, this is how much the population relies on the Highlands for a water supply.
So can you explain that a little bit for folks, Elliot? You know, because people understand, certainly living here in Jersey City, that we get our water from the Boonton Reservoir. So the suggestion here is that the Highlands supplies the Boonton Reservoir, correct?
Right. And then Jersey City not only provides water to its residents from the Boonton Reservoir, but it gets an income providing water to surrounding municipalities, and so does Newark.
I didn't know that.
So the Rockaway River flows into the Split Rock Reservoir, and then on to the Jersey City Reservoir, Boonton Reservoir, before it exits there and continues. But one of the things that keeps the water in from the Highlands clean are the forests, which is Elliot's probably going to get to, but the forests that protect the headwaters of these rivers. There are a slew of rivers that rise in the Highlands. So, but Jersey City is most particularly concerned about the Rockaway River, which is what feeds your reservoirs.
Thank you.
So not only does the Highlands provide drinking water, as well as water for manufacturing and beverage industries throughout New Jersey, it's also an incredible and accessible opportunity for outdoor recreation. And here, this is actually a photograph of when we did a paddle one day on the Split Rock Reservoir in Rockaway Township, which is part of Jersey City's water supply system. It's also a recreational reservoir, and people are free to bring non-motorized craft to Split Rock. But hiking, bicycling, hunting, fishing, we have some of the most pristine limestone streams in the East Coast. In areas of limestone, water flows very fast and remains cool. And that is some of the best trout streams around, because that's what trout like, cool water. And we have a native brook trout in the Highlands, which people come from all over to fish.
So basically, the Split Rock Reservoir is not necessarily explicitly for drinking water, but it does feed the Boonton Reservoir, which is a resource for drinking water.
Well, yes and no. It was created as a reservoir to feed the Boonton Reservoir. So from that standpoint, yes, it is a primarily a water supply reservoir, but it is also usable for recreation. As Elliot was talking about, and there is a trail around the Split Rock Reservoir, and I think it's nearly 14 miles long. It's beautiful. It is a stunning place. There's a wonderful parking lot where you can park and head out on the trails from there, or take your kayak or your canoe down to the boat launch into the reservoir. So.
Yeah, I remember about 5 years ago, Ash, the Jersey City folks were a bit outraged, our environmental commission, a bit outraged because the Boonton Reservoir was going to be opened up for recreation, meaning a trail surrounding it, which I know was allowed. I'm not sure if people are getting out on the water at the Boonton Reservoir. Do you guys know?
It's
No,
not,
because
it's not recreational.
it's not, they haven't completed the trail yet, but I know it's a work in progress. People are concerned about security, but consider this. Right now, anyone can sneak into the Boonton Reservoir, and people do. If it's open to the public and monitored, there's natural surveillance, and people are less likely to do nefarious things when you can't hide. And if there are people around, you can't hide as easily.
Okay, good point.
And meanwhile, you have this wonderful recreation source. So not only are there recreational values to the Highlands, which are incredible, we also have this incredible forest. I don't know if it's actually, you can actually see it moving.
It's working. Yes, it is
Oh,
working.
excellent.
Extraordinary, yeah.
So we have a 360 square mile mature forest in the more densely populated northern half of the most densely populated state. And this is our reservoir of biodiversity. There are so many plants and animal species that can only live here because of how large it is and how mature it is. And this is all second growth. And we don't know about it because it's all balkanized as state park, state forest, county park, municipal park, water supply management areas, and we only see that little portion of it, but that's not how the critters look at it. It's one single ecological resource. And this is where our recreational values are the greatest. This is where biodiversity is the greatest. And this is also an extraordinary natural engine for absorbing atmospheric carbon and storing it. So the climate resiliency opportunities here are incredible. I show this to people and don't tell them
Amazing.
New Jersey and ask them where it is. And you can't see this from a trail. You can't see it from the road. You can't even see it from a high point. You have to see it from 1,700 feet in the sky from a single engine plane. And then you'll never see it the same again. So we have a Highlands Council, which was formed out of the 2004 Highlands Act, which was charged with coming up with a master plan that municipalities in the Highlands, in the planning area, the Highlands, when it was, the Highlands Act was enacted, they split the Highlands into two distinct regions of roughly the same size. The inner core was the preservation area, which came under strict land use regulations by the Department of Environmental Protection. I mean, so strict that it takes 88 acres of land to build a single home that would be on septic, because that was scientifically determined what it would take for a septic system for an average size family, and the average or the drought of record rainfall to dilute that septic effluent to the point that it would have zero impact on groundwater. So that was the preservation area, the inner core, and the Highlands Core Forest, which you just saw. The outer area of roughly the same size was the planning area. And there, the goals and objectives of the Highlands Act would be met through good planning, and that municipalities can voluntarily conform to. And the Highlands Council was charged with coming up with a master plan, which was the basis for these municipalities to make their local land use ordinances and zoning ordinances consistent with the same plan. And right now, about half of the municipalities in the Highlands have conformed. So we have a tradition of a relationship between the Highlands and Jersey City. At the beginning, it was about iron and other products that came out of the Highlands. Today, it's water. And that theme is, we feel, in the Morris Canal, which was the beginning of our relationship, and it's carried forward today in our relationship for providing water to Jersey City and Newark. And in fact, when Governor Christie attempted to weaken the septic density provisions of the Highlands rules, which dictated it took 88 acres to build a single house on in a forested area on septic, when Christie's DEP proposed to weaken that provision, we got over 1,000 comments from Jersey City in opposition to that. And it was enough to inspire the New Jersey legislature, because Christie went ahead and adopted that regulation, weakened it, to implement a rarely used provision, balance of power provision of the New Jersey Constitution, which stipulates if the legislature passes a resolution twice that says that an agency regulation is inconsistent or violates the legislative intent, they pass that twice within the same legislative session, that rule becomes invalidated. And the New Jersey legislature did that.
It was an extraordinary effort, and Jersey City really played an important role in that. And
What year was that?
it was at the end of the Christie administration, so it would have been, yeah.
No,
because it happened literally in lame duck at the end, when they, for the second time, they passed they said this was inconsistent, and it was in the evening. It was sleeting outside. It was standing room only.
Last legislative day.
Right, exactly. And they just kept the voting open until they got won over the majority. To get it. They did first in the Senate and then in the Assembly. And it was really quite an extraordinary day. And then the governor's DEP commissioner refused to recognize it.
Why was that?
Because he was on his way out, and he left it to Murphy and McCabe to actually go reverse the ruling.
No,
it's only the second time this has ever been done in the state.
Mm-hmm.
But Jersey City, those $1,000 comments were a big contribution to the effort that overturned Chris Christie's rulemaking.
Carried the day.
Helped carry the day.
So
and in fact, we've got a photograph somewhere of Elliot speaking.
That's a good story.
Yeah, Elliot speaking at a press conference at the
Liberty State Park.
Liberty State Park, with Jersey City in the background, and the mayor.
Yeah.
So that would have been Mayor Fuller.
Yeah, it was Mayor Fuller.
All right.
So today there is a very mature effort by municipalities, counties in the state for a Morris Canal Greenway. A
Yes.
trail, 102-mile trail linking the Delaware River at Phillipsburg with the Hudson River at Jersey City. And it is emblematic of the relationship between the Highlands and New Jersey's eastern cities. So I think this is a very important symbolic effort that come into fruition.
And that's on its way.
Yes, and that's the end of my presentation. So happy to open it up to questions.
Well, before we go
Comments.
there, just as an example, before we began, Deborah, you talked about, you asked, you know, who our members are, and we were explaining that we have grassroots members all over the Highlands. And we have we actually have two grassroots members in the city of Phillipsburg, one of which is opposing a proposal to build a warehouse that's right on the Delaware River with two overburdened communities right next to it, almost in downtown Phillipsburg. And right next to, it would completely cut off where this trail might reach the river. So
Got the Essex Hudson Greenway?
no. This is the Morris Canal Greenway. You know, where the Morris Canal Greenway would enter, would reach the Delaware River. So, I mean, we have member organizations all over the Highlands, each doing their own thing, each focusing on their own issues, but all are working to protect the Highlands in one way or another. So I mentioned that I had a meeting just before we came on with one of those member groups. That's in the Morris County group, but we have groups in Sussex County and Warren County and Somerset County and all over the Highlands. Passaic County.
What other groups do you have in Hudson County?
Well, we don't have any groups in Hudson County because Hudson County is not in the Highlands.
Jersey City. All right.
But if Sustainable Jersey were to become a member,
Sustainable Jersey City.
There you go.
Different from Sustainable Jersey.
Gotcha.
People get us confused sometimes, but we'll join up.
That would be fantastic. So we had talked earlier, you wanted to know how we get involved in more statewide issues. And there are statewide issues that absolutely impact the Highlands. Most particularly these days, we're working on things about forestry, about warehouses. Those are two things of particular interest, but we also have been very involved in the movement of the New Jersey Pact rules.
The New Jersey what?
Elliot, do you want to talk about New Jersey
Yes.
Pact?
Right now, there are proposed new regulations concerning wetlands, flood hazard area, CAFRA, which are coastal regulations, flood hazard area regulations, because our current regulations are based on data that is 50 to 60 years old and are not reflective of the current storms and droughts we're experiencing because of climate change. And if we're going to protect citizens and our property from major flooding, we have to build much more with ways that are flood hardened.
It would seem that the Murphy administration would be in favor of this.
Yes, they proposed new rules. It's the development community that is pushing back hard on this.
So we participate and partner with other organizations from across the state to move things like this. it takes a real group efforts to move legislation like this that is opposed by, for instance, the development community. And that's where our member organizations come in, because we're able to communicate with them and they can then disseminate the information to their members. And suddenly you have a small group that becomes really powerful because people are talking to each other and people are sitting up and paying attention.
In fact, at the recent League of Municipalities convention in Atlantic City, we had a press conference in support of DEP adopting these proposed regulations, and Mayor Fulop spoke at that press conference.
Okay.
So forestry regulations, there is a draft bill proposed by Senators Smith and McKeon to require the DEP to promulgate rules to protect public forests on public lands. We don't think that it's nearly strong enough. We're working with partner organizations, particularly New Jersey Forest Watch, which is another one of our members. But we have a natural heritage committee that also informs us of scientists and ecologists. And that is likely to move forward this spring in hearings before the Senate Environment and then the Assembly Environment Committees. And again, we depend on our member organizations to help us provide the oomph, provide the people power to move these forward. So that's another example of statewide issues that we get involved in.
Very good.
So we've got a couple of members of the public who are here, and I don't know if anybody has questions, either based on what you've heard or based on anything that you want to know about the Highlands.
Folks, any questions for these Highlanders? Who do we have here? We have Parisa and
Mala,
who else joined us? Shaya, Smidar. No questions.
Well, silence now doesn't mean you have to be silent forever. I promise you, if you reach out to Elliot or myself, and I put our emails in the chat, we're happy to talk to anybody anytime.
Well, that's terrific. Is it the case that you would like to share your presentation materials for us to post?
Sure.
You could send that over. I think we're on an email together, aren't we?
is
Yes.
yes, yeah.
Okay. So
I'll
that
be
would be
happy to do
perfect.
that.
Okay. Well, thank you. You know, this is great. And we, again, will reference back to, the presentation, the recording, as we publish our newsletter the first week in February.
Thank you, Deborah.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm going to hang up with you and join the coalition. I'll log on over there. And that would be, I feel very good about that.
If I may add, I am a member of the New Jersey Highland Coalition. I get your newsletter, and I understand that one of them, the chief concern that I've seen in the newsletters that I get is about the warehouse sprawl, and not so much about water resources or drinking water. Now, I live in North Bergen, so our water comes from, I think, north of us rather than south of us or from the Highlands, as far as from the last time I saw where our water source comes from. But I share your concern, and I appreciate the fact that you're sharing information about legislation, because I think that that is the way to go. And I wanted to actually ask you, You said that you feel that the legislation that is being put forward is not strong enough. And I wanted to know, isn't it better to get something going and then go for a stronger worded language or a stronger regulation? Better to have something than nothing at all?
Well, the problem is that we have been fighting the Division of Fish and Wildlife, which regularly likes to log their state wildlife management areas. And they would like to extend that to all public lands. And the reason they do this is because they get about $1 million a year from the Department of Agriculture for this program known as the Young Forest Initiative.
Federal Department of Agriculture.
Yeah, Federal Department for this Young Forest Initiative, which they believe that if they clear cut 10 acres of forest, sell the wood, sell the logging spoils, that they're improving habitat for some declining songbirds. What we have found, and which we have proven, is that they do far more damage to the forest than they do any good. And it is something that is that foresters, traditional foresters who look at forests as for trees as an agricultural type model where you grow the largest and the straightest trees, and they have the most mercantile value. That's not the way we need to treat our mature forests, because there's so many ecological values. That trees are only a part of it. There's complexity in the soils. There are not only songbirds from the forest edge, but there are interior species which are being destroyed by these activities. And that's our big fight with the Division of Fish and Wildlife, which we're finding is challenging getting traction with the legislature and the governor.
Really?
Another,
Yes.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Given
Money.
that the governor would be supportive.
money. The DEP is seriously starved for money. They are much smaller than they were only a few years ago in number of employees. It is very hard for them to get their job done. And so that federal funding is really important to them.
So are we saying that the federal funding is securing the failure of what?
Yes.
Oh, Lord.
Yes, but we're slowly getting people to come around. In fact, if you go to our website, there's a documentary, a 10-minute documentary, where we actually go in and look at one of these sites they've logged two years after to see if the forest is regenerating. And what we're finding are invasive species where they've never been before, and the deer herd increasing, which is eating all of the saplings of the native trees. And that will end up causing an ecological collapse of our forests.
So where,
Consider everywhere
is it
you
under the
create-
resources section? I'm on your website right now.
Well, we haven't released
You haven't
it
published
publicly.
it, you haven't put it out yet public. It's very, very new, this video.
But
Okay.
I'm going to send you a link, because with a link you can view it.
So send it with your presentation materials in the email. If you don't
Okay.
want me to post it, I won't. I'll view it personally, but if you do want me to post it, I will.
Well, we will go public with it shortly.
All right,
In which
so I'll
case-
just look at it privately.
Yep.
So
Okay.
I have a question. When you say publicly, are you also approaching general media with it, or is it
Oh,
basically?
we will be, yes. We will be. In fact, I hope we'll have an editorial in the Star Ledger about it and promoting the video.
Another issue that we are very involved in, one of our trustees is Chief Vincent Mann of the Turtle Clan and the Ramapo Lenape. And we are promoting federal recognition for the tribe and relocation from Ringwood for those members of the tribe who would like to move out of the Superfund site that they are living in right now.
Oh, that's great.
So, you know, we've been doing for a number of years now, we have been actively working with the tribe on various issues, ceremonial stones landscapes, trying to get them recognized by the State Historic Preservation Office, federal recognition, relocation. You know, so these are things that we're trying to help the tribe with. Just another thing that we're working on.
I have a question about, because it's come up periodically in conversation, how familiar with, associated with, given that you're stitching so many things together, looking for avenues to support your work. This, I understand the Green Amendment.
Oh,
Mhm.
we support the Green Amendment.
Right, I understand. Do you know where it's at? At last I heard it was in committee. What does that mean? In committee?
Elliot, do you want to stop sharing?
Yeah.
In committee means that it has not progressed out of committee.
Right, but it seems like it's been there forever.
Well, it's been slightly stuck. Elliot, I don't know, have you spoken at all recently with
No,
Delaware River Keeper?
no, I think Maya is concentrating on other states. I don't think the time is right for New Jersey. I mean, it is absolutely essential that a Green Amendment is passed because so many of our environmental regulations only slow the pollution and degradation. They can't outright stop it because it conflicts with private property rights. And there are always exemptions and there are always waivers because private property is constitutionally protected. And we don't have a constitutional right to a clean and safe environment. So until that we do, we'll never finally win the battle. But I just don't think New Jersey's ready for it yet.
Politics is a complicated process. And one of the key people to allowing the Green Amendment to move forward is Senator Bob Smith.
Right.
And Senator Smith believes that the Green Amendment has quote unquote unintended consequences and has been very reluctant to allow it to progress.
Right.
So Maya has been, as Elliot said, focusing on other states, and she's been having considerable success in New York State, as an example. The first state to pass it was Pennsylvania, of all places.
Did New York just pass it
New York State passed it.
this year?
I think it was last year, fairly recently.
Yeah. Okay, I missed that. Okay, great.
And she's working in a couple of other states too. I think there's a third state where she's been successful. So it's slow
Very good.
business.
Great.
I mean, talk about that, banging your head against the wall.
Yeah.
Maya has a very tough skull.
Yeah.
But Bob Smith has been really important to the state of New Jersey. He has done a lot of really important things. And passage of the Highlands Water Protection and Planning Act will be one of the most important things that he achieved. But he's over 80. He's talking about retirement. You know, all things shall pass.
Who's the new Bob Smith coming up?
John McKeon.
Don McKeon?
John
Who's now-
McKeon.
Who's now a senator.
He was, as an assemblyman, he was the chair of the Assembly Environment Committee until he pissed somebody off and got kicked out. But they did put him back. But now he's a senator, as Elliot said, and he is on the Senate Environment Committee. And he, because of his previous track record, until Senator Cody retired and made it certain that John McKeon was his successor. You know, John McKeon is going to be there till he retires, and he's got many years ahead of him.
Okay, good. So there won't be a vacuum around this, so.
No,
Okay, great.
there is a vacuum around John McKean in the assembly, but
Yeah. Well, who's going to replace him there? Who's the up and coming?
that's that. I mean, if that was an easy answer, there'd be an easy answer.
Okay. No easy answer is the answer. Okay. Any more questions for these fine people? Thank you so much. I really
Okay.
appreciate it. It's good to know you both. And I almost kind of want to say, see you around campus.
Oh, well, and thanks, Ashwani, for introducing us. We really appreciate it.
Yes,
And it's very nice to meet everybody.
yes. One of
Yeah,
the reasons
As
I love
Elliot, I hope, was powerfully projected, the connection between Jersey City and the Highlands is really important
yes,
and undeniable. So
yes,
And
very.
I must say, I'm getting my hip replaced in February because of Jersey City.
well,
What does that
sort of.
mean? What does that mean?
Well, a year ago, September, I did a presentation at Liberty State Park on
Oh, it was an
the
amazing, it was an amazing event.
on the Ramapo, Lenape, and the Pavonia massacre. We did it at night, and
And I bet it was not recorded.
well,
There's some
but
photographic.
it was pouring rain, and we had rented this stage, and the stage lighting was in your eyes if you're on stage, so you couldn't see anything. And I walked right off the stage into the void.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. No, so sorry to hear.
It was not a comfortable landing.
So hip surgery is catching up with you now. Okay,
Yes.
gotcha.
Ashwani, you are the first to know of the trustees.
All right. Well,
All
nice
right
to meet
then.
you all. And thank you, Ashwani, for putting this together.
Very nice.
We really appreciate it.
Saluting you.
Deborah, I look forward to working with you.
Yes,
And our other attendees. If you want anything from us, please let us know.
very nice. You all enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Carry on.
Bye.
All good things.
Good
Bye
night.
for now.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.
Good night.